What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is Professor X. Today I'm at work, so I'm sitting inside my truck. I was thinking about this. I said, well, let me go on break and go ahead and do this video. But I want to talk about 5 things I wish I had done differently when I was in my 20s, late teens, early 20s. When you reach a certain age and you start reflecting back over your life, you realize, or at least you feel, that, man, my life could be a lot different. My life could be a lot different if I hadn't made certain choices that I made. So this is not in any particular order, and I'm sure there's more than 5, but the first one that I would say is I would not change who I am. If I could go back, I would not change who I am for anybody. The pressure, I would say, the peer pressure to fit in, even as an adult, the peer pressure to fit in, to try to be like somebody else, to try to see it their way, to keep adjusting your personality for people is a lot, and that pressure is heavy. And I was the oldest, I am the oldest of 3 children, and we all have different personalities, but I would say, in particularly growing up, I was the more adventurous one. I mean, some of that's negative, some of that's positive. It's just all worked in the personality. If my mom or dad was going to go to the school for somebody that had done something wrong, be it a fight, got into it with a teacher, whatever, somebody stole something, whatever, it was going to be me. My brother and sister went all the way through college, high school, middle school, never had a phone call. I had quite a few of them. So I guess, if we want to call it that, I would be considered at the time maybe the black sheep of the family. But it's all personality. And when you're trying to figure out your personality and you may not have the discipline in place, some of that can lead to those kind of behaviors. And growing older, because I was always different, and even the way that I thought and approached life, sometimes the different thought process can separate you from other people, because people may not feel comfortable around you knowing that you're so different in the way that you are, in the way that you handle things, in the way that you see things. And then if I know that, then I have found myself adjusting and kind of downplaying my own personality and thoughts to try to fit in. And so if there was anything, if that's number 1, I would definitely, if I could go back, I wouldn't do that. I would just be me and let the chips fall where they may. Wherever that took me. Now, I'm not saying just stay me and don't change. We all have to, with whatever we have to grow and evolve with whatever we are. We have to be the best at that. But we all are not made of the same material. So the outcome is not going to look the same. You can have 3 kids, but all of them, even though they're from the same parents, if it's the same parents, they all still can be different because they have themselves wrapped within that. So that's number 1. Number 2, from my very first check, I would have saved and invested money. From my very first check, when I first started working at 17 years old, I would have saved and invested money. And if there are any, at any age you can grab this information, but if there's any, at this point I could say, young people that's in your 20s, you want to start this as early as you can And I'm not going to do a finance class, but bottom line is you want the power of compound interest working in your favor. And that takes years for that to come to pass. Like 20 years and then plus for compound interest to start working on your behalf. So do that quick, like now. And it don't matter if you can only invest $10 a week, do it. If you're 20 and you can only invest $10 a week, do it. And when the space opens up for you to do something else, then add to it. But start that. Put that in your journey. Number 3 is I would not have gotten married as early as I did. I got married at 20 years old. Most of that I feel is because I was raised in the church. I was raised in a conservative church. And the teachings there basically, of course, no fornication, which is sex and not being married. But it was very strong in the language, even using when one of the writers in the Bible, Paul, said, it's better to marry than to burn. And that was taught as like burn in hell. Then I got older and that's not what that word burn actually meant. It actually meant pretty much to walk around and be filled with sexual desire all day. Y'all know what that word is. It starts with an H. That's what the word really means. But when it's taught from the church that it's better to go ahead and be married to avoid, fornication, then a lot of young people were, of course, getting married really young because they wanted to have sex, and then a lot of those relationships didn't work out. Now, I'm not blaming the church. I'm just saying when you are cultivated in an atmosphere, it pushes certain things that can help be responsible for the decisions that you make. Looking back on it now, and I'm gonna say this lightly, a lot of us would have been better off to just fornicate and not get married than to get married and 15, 20, 30 years later end up with divorce, broken up homes, hurt kids, hurt families, can't talk to one another. Again, I know that's not something that if we go to church, we want to say across the pulpit, across the platform. I know that's not something that maybe Jesus would say. But looking back, in retrospect, a lot of us would have been better off to just fornicate, honestly. Or discipline yourself not to, whichever one. But just getting married with the high point of now you can have sex, that wasn't the answer. So I definitely would knowing if I could go back with what I know now, I probably would have waited till I was closer to 30, maybe even 33. Of course, now you fall in love with someone, excuse me, on that path, then yeah, you'll override that. But I'm just saying, with what I know now, I would delay that. The fourth one is I would have left, this is a big one, excuse me. The fourth one is I would have left all credit cards alone. If you are not disciplined, either you have not taken a class, you have not been taught, you don't have the wisdom, you don't have the knowledge of how credit cards really work, especially as a teenager or someone in their 20s. Credit cards have the potential and is designed to put you in finance jail for at least 20 years. $1,000 credit card without the proper knowledge of how to use it, and you're just making minimum payments, and then they slap interest rate every month, which pretty much washes out what you just paid. A $1,000 card can take you probably 20 years to pay it off on just that card that you put $1,000 on 20 years ago, if you don't have the proper knowledge of how it works. And it took me a long time to get out of credit card debt. A long time. And I didn't even have as much debt as the average consumer. But it took me a long time. I was in my 30s and early 40s before I really got out of credit card debt. That's how long it took me, because life had already happened. So I had kids. I mean, you only could put so much to it that you could put to it. You still got to live. You still got other stuff going on. So I had kids, a family, cars, mortgage, all the stuff that come with that. So whatever I had, that's what was going to and it took me a long time. I would have left credit cards alone until I got the knowledge that I'm supposed to have. And thankfully, I have given my daughter the knowledge that, stay under 30%, pay it off every month. Don't let them charge no interest to it. It'll still build your credit. And she follows that. And thankfully she does, because it'll have you in finance jail a great part of your life. The last one is how I handle my body and my health. I didn't take good care of my health. And then riding in these trucks, as long as I've been doing it, you just sitting here, the blood is not flowing through through the veins properly. And so I've had to have 2 surgeries on my veins down in my legs, and then not taking care of myself and then allowing stress and certain things years ago, especially coming out of a divorce. It ran my blood pressure up. So I'm running up blood pressure without even knowing it. For those that understand the numbers of blood pressure, 260, 255, 260, and wasn't even aware, because I wasn't going to, doing my yearly checkups as a man. Now I'm on it now. I mean, we're good now. I mean, I was an athlete, so I had just stopped. I mean, back in high school or whatever, in college I was an athlete, but then I stopped as I got older. So getting back into it, the running and the jogging and playing baseball with my son, that came quite naturally, and it helped regulate those things back down. But until then, I was obese, diabetic, high blood pressure, and bad veins in my legs. And then a bad back from when I used to work at a factory in my teenage years. Instead of using a hoist to pick up something heavy, which was an air conditioning compressor, I leaned over the rack and lifted it up, just straight up in the air, and pulled something in my back, which I never got checked out. And then now I still suffer for that. I go see a chiropractor like once a month for that. So I definitely would have taken better care of my health. So hopefully this can help somebody or make somebody think. Leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, maybe mention something that you would change if you could go back 20, 30 years. Because like I said at the beginning, if we could, we all, I'm sure, would make some major changes. All right.